I had a terrible scare yesterday, so I wanted to tell you about that and also talk about how this can be prevented because I find it absolutely ridiculous in this day and age that this is happening. So, when I was growing up in the 70s and 80s, it was very, very common for people to come door to door to sell vacuum cleaners as well as encyclopedia sets. And we didn't have the internet. There was no Amazon or Walmart online. There was no shopping online. So that's what people did. But today in 2026, things are way different. We don't actually need door to door salespeople anymore. And not too long ago, roughly about 6 months ago, I was sitting on my couch. And for those who have never seen my videos before, I just wanted to explain something really quickly. I left corporate America after the toxicity in the workplace environment left me with awful health issues. And I rested for a year trying to get my health back on track. I had severe health ailments. So I rested for a year. I've been out of that place now for a really long time. My health did start to improve. So I'm able to do more things. However, I do still need appropriate rest. And one way I get that is, like, for example, when I sit down to have lunch, I sit in my living room and I have a window onto my left. I open the blind and I can see out, or I go out onto the front porch and I hang out with my cats because it's a screened in porch. However, about 6 months ago, I saw somebody walking up my driveway, no vehicle, no nothing. And I was having my lunch, but I was able to see him ahead of time. And we have a security system on the front of the house. It's a big LED light with a camera. But as I was sitting there, I could see him. So I went outside and I stopped him right there. He had a vest on that looked like he was from a utility company. And I asked him, what's this about? Once in a while, the utility company here actually does come up to see if they need to trim trees on the roadways and things like that. But I wasn't expecting this. Usually they leave a note in my mailbox, some kind of form that they fill out to let us know it's not a scam, that somebody will be coming out. This time was different. I didn't get a notice. I didn't get a phone call. I didn't get a note. No, nobody in the neighborhood told me this was going on. Plus, they already did that recently. So I didn't think it was the utility company. I did think it was something else, but I wasn't sure what it was. The guy coming up my driveway stopped. He said, "Oh, I'm so-and-so from the cable company." And he continued to walk up to my side porch there where the door is locked on my screen porch. I keep it locked so my cats don't escape. I don't want them out there in the wilderness where we have coyotes and all that because I live up in the woods. So I told him once again, please go back down to the driveway. And I said, I don't feel comfortable with you up here. But after talking with the guy, I got the feeling it was not a scam. But of course, I was here, I think, alone that day. I don't think my adult children were home. So I was leery. And I told him, I said, you know what? Why don't you come back when people are here? When my son gets home and everybody's here, why don't you come back then? Because my son is very techie. He knows things that I don't about electronics, about switching cable companies, about cell phones. I don't know as much as my son does. So I thought that would be the best plan of action to get rid of this guy. And also, I thought if he was actually legit and not a scammer, he'd be willing to come back. So I set a time at 7 p.m. thinking, right, yeah, he's not going to come back at 7 p.m. But he did. And he turned out to be legit. I was able to confirm with the cable company the guy was legit. As it turned out, I was in the mood to switch cable companies. My cable bill had gone up to an astronomical amount, and they weren't willing to lower it, and I wasn't willing to pay it anymore. So I said to this guy, yeah, we want to switch, and it was a third of the price. Once I confirmed it wasn't a scam, the guy didn't come out with a car. He didn't come out with a truck. He didn't even have a name badge. So it was scary. But at the end of the day, I did figure out this guy is legit. He helped us switch. My son was able to get like the best internet speed and all that you can get. And they got along great because they were like the same age. Yesterday, I was sitting on my couch, and I'm going through a lot right now. Even though I was able to rest for a while after quitting a toxic work environment, I have new developing health issues because of my age. Things are starting to fall apart. I'm working closely with my doctors. I already have some health issues, so there's that, okay? And I didn't have my curtain open yesterday. I wasn't looking out at my driveway because I was trying to sit calmly and just enjoy my lunch, have an ice water, relax. And it was also extremely high heat yesterday. I do have central air, which I finally turned on this week because I had no choice. It was so sweltering hot. I tried to wait as long as I could to turn that on because you know that electric bill is coming. But I had to turn it on. And I was just trying to keep calm, keep cool, because some of the medicines I'm on make me very, very, very hot. And I don't just sweat like a normal person anymore. I sweat like golf ball size sweat droplets, and it is uncomfortable. In addition, I have other things going on, like my face turns beet red, my adrenaline spikes. So I try to stay as calm as possible. I do what I can. I don't push myself. This is temporary until things get straightened out in my body. But until then, I have to deal with this. And I do it the best I can by trying to limit my exposure to stress and just staying calm. And in this day and age, try limiting your exposure to stress. It's nearly impossible. So I do everything I can to avoid it. And my daughter was home. She's in her 20s, and she was actually going through stuff, getting ready to donate stuff from her room, spring cleaning. She had her music going, and we have the same taste in music, so it was awesome because I was sitting there calmly listening to the backdrop of her nice music, just relaxing for a change. In this high-paced, stressful world we all live in, it's nice to just breathe once in a while. I'm sipping on my ice water, and it was so refreshing in that hot air. Even though the central air was on, it was still hot. My cats were sprawled out on the front porch, and they were just having a great old time in that heat, because of course cats like heat. And like I said, I have a screened-in porch with a locking door, so I don't, want them to get out and get into a tangle with a wild animal or anything. And then I also have a patio furniture set, which is in pieces so you can move it around, like a modular set. So I took one of those end pieces and I put it in front of that door. One of my cats loves to lay on that little chair there, but at the same time, it does serve as a blockade so the cats can't get their little paws under the door and rip it open, because I just have a thin little lock. I don't have a cat door on my front door, so I had it open a crack so that they could come in and out when they wanted to. I happened to be having a conversation a little while later. After I finished my lunch, I was talking to somebody, and I was trying to explain to them this house I saw. The house I was referring to is like a Swedish design. It's beautiful with like scallop trim around the roof line. This is what I was trying to explain, and this person couldn't get it in their head what I was talking about. They had never seen one before. Aside from showing them pictures online, I said, it's like a gingerbread house. Finally, I realized maybe they would know the story of Hansel and Gretel. So I come out with that. I'm like, did you ever see Hansel and Gretel or read the book, The Gingerbread House in the Woods? And the kids went off to go see it, and it's a horror movie. And this person said, oh yeah, that one I do know. I'm like, right. So a gingerbread house. And while we were talking about that, then we got on to the scary part of the movie, and we were talking about the horror part of it. So now I'm kind of freaking myself out there on the couch, and I'm just about to get up because I had other things to do. Now that my lunch was over, I finished my relaxing time. I was going to do some laundry and other things. And I also had a very busy morning, mind you. So it wasn't that I had sat there all day or anything. I was actually very, very busy yesterday, just trying to calm myself for a little bit while I had my lunch. All of a sudden, now there's background music playing, and my daughter is tending to things in her own room, but I heard this loud, obnoxious bang, 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 and then yelling. A few days ago, maybe a week ago, There were two people in the neighborhood that were fighting, something about a motorcycle, and they were yelling and fighting. I think one guy didn't want the other guy to rev his engine at midnight or whatever it was, but they got into a fight. So my first thought was, oh, they're fighting again. That's really what I thought. The sound travels. So even if it's down in the neighborhood, I can hear it up here because I'm on kind of like a hill. So I just dismissed it like that's got to be what it is. It's these two men fighting again over the motorcycle. So I didn't get up. I didn't look. And of course, again, my living room curtain was closed because I was trying to self-calm and try not to get overheated. So we proceeded with the conversation, talking about the horror movie, and we're laughing about it, and we're talking about it, and I was like, yeah, that was scary. And it happened again. Bang, 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 and then screaming. And I'm like, what? I'm looking around, I'm like, what is that? But again, I didn't get up. I didn't think it was my house. So that made no sense to me that it was somebody at my house. And all of a sudden, it happened a third time, and then a fourth. And the screaming got louder and louder and louder and louder. And I'm like, is somebody hurt? Does somebody need help? Once in a while here, I'll hear an alarm go off. There's an elderly person that has problems. I don't know what they are exactly, but she'll pull an alarm and the fire department will come out. I thought, well, maybe she needs help. So now I'm concerned. Like, oh my goodness, is this my elderly neighbor? I need to go check on her. So I get up, but I'm cautious. I'm not going to just go running out the door because I don't know what this is. And it was kind of scary. I take my friend with me on the phone and I say to her, now listen, do not hang up. I'm going to go check out what this is, but stay on the phone. I don't know what it is, and you might need to call 911 for me or whatever. She was like, yeah, I'm not going to hang up. So I took the phone with me with her on speakerphone. And when I got up from the couch, I was able to look out the front door, but from a distance. There was no car, no truck, nothing in my driveway except my own. My son wasn't home, so he usually parks at the bottom of the hill. His car wasn't there because obviously he's not here. And I'm like, okay, what is going on? It can't possibly be here. And I'm looking through the doorway, the crack that it is, and I'm looking through it down below where my elderly neighbor is that often pulls this alarm. But there's no alarm. I'm like, okay. And there's no noise. There's nobody fighting. There's nobody yelling for help. So I'm like, I must be hearing things. Must be because I'm talking about this spooky movie. And I got it in my head. So I turn around and I start walking back to my seat to sit down for a moment. And all of a sudden, now it's somebody is trying to literally crash through my screen door out front. That's just locked barely with this little thing that goes into a little circle lock. It's not a real lock. And I was like, who is that? And why are they trying to crash through my porch door? Like, now I'm really upset because I didn't see a car outside. It's just me and my daughter. I can hold my own. However, I'm not okay right now. I'm kind of vulnerable. I'm on this medication. Makes my heart race and things. I'm actually very vulnerable right now. So it scared me. As soon as that happened and I heard that noise, I heard my chair start scraping against my porch deck. My adrenaline went through the roof. I started physically shaking. So I carefully walked up to that door and I peeked around the corner very, very cautiously. And this guy, big guy, twice my size, I'm only 5'2", he had to be over 6 feet tall. He just starts yelling, but in a happy way. He wasn't like yelling at me. He was just obnoxious, absurdly obnoxious. And he's like, hi, I'm so-and-so, but extremely loud. Another thing about this medication I'm on, it heightens my sensories. Everything smells stronger. Everything is louder. My sensory nervous system is on fire from this stuff. So it's horrible. Like when I hear a pot and pan clank against the stove, oh, it goes right through me. You know, if I hear dishes clink together, it's like, oh, nails on a, chalkboard type thing. So when he started yelling, even though it was a happy way, not yelling at me, it just went right through me. And I pretty much couldn't cope with that. And I'm just standing there looking at him like totally annoyed. And he was totally oblivious to this. And I'm just looking at him. Finally, he stops talking. He wouldn't stop talking. He just looks at me and goes, oh, you look concerned. Well, with the high adrenaline, and now my nervous system is shot because of his yelling and banging on this screen door, I just went off. I don't even remember everything I said. First of all, I told the man, yeah, you think I'm concerned? You're right, I'm concerned. I said, first of all, I don't see no car out here. I don't see no truck. I don't see no business emblem on a vehicle. Who are you? And why are you here? I thought he was going to say, oh, I'm with the utility company or something that made sense. My brain was trying to make sense of this situation other than this guy's trying to break into my house. I was trying not to go there or think that, but that's what I was thinking at this point. And he just looked at me and he's like, oh, and then he got all that energy again and excitability. And I'm just standing there like shaking to death. And I'm just looking at him like, oh my goodness, get away from me right now. So I said, you need to leave. He says, well, you didn't even hear what I have to say. I said, I don't want to hear what you have to say. Get off my porch and leave. Go back the way you came, out the driveway and down, and get out now. And he's like, oh, don't you want to hear what I have to say? No, I don't. I had to say this like 10 times. This guy was agitating me to a whole new level of agitation. The whole time, mind you, he's pushing on that screen door. The chair keeps moving forward. Well, I have an 18-year-old tiger striped cat named Pepper. She's feisty. And she's rescued from the outdoors. I got her when she was like 2 years old. This cat is no joke. I used to have 2 dogs. One was a pit bull. Let me tell you something about that. If somebody came to my door, my pit bull would hide. Okay? He wasn't about to become ferocious unless I was getting hurt. That dog would hide. My cat, on the other hand, she has no fear and she doesn't take anything like this. She jumped on that chair that was actively moving away from the door because he's pushing on that door. She jumped on that chair and she went right up to him like as if she could talk. If she could talk, she would have literally said, hey, get out of here. That's what she would have said. Her stance, the muscles in her little tiny body, I couldn't believe it. It was so cute and adorable, but at the same time, now I'm in a rage, And she's like contesting this man. She wanted out to get him. And he's going off and off and off. And I finally said, why don't you take whatever literature you have or whatever you're selling, go out there, find a rock, stick it under it so it doesn't blow away. And at my leisure, I will look at it. Oh, okay. And then he asked me a question and I was like, no, or whatever, because he wanted to know if I had a certain internet or cable. And then I was like, is that what this is about, internet and cable? And then I said, no. And then he said, well, what do you have? Well, it turned out he was a direct competitor of who I just switched to not too long ago. And I said, I'm all set. He goes, well, have you switched within the past year? I said, yes, I have. Now get out. I don't want this conversation. I'm not interested in this. Get off my property now. And he basically said to me, oh, well, I didn't know that. If you had just said that, I would never have come up here if I had just said that. Right. How would I have known he was coming up there? How would I have known to communicate that with him? Oh, like it was my fault he came up there. No, that's your fault, buddy. So I told him, get out, don't come back. I'm not interested. And if I was, I would call you. I don't need you soliciting to me. So my friend is still on the phone, by the way, and she's dying laughing. She's laughing hysterically because she knows I don't feel well. And she knows that took all of my adrenaline and then some to just speak my mind. And she's like, go sit down right now. I was sweating so profusely because it was literally over 90 degrees yesterday. And I'm standing out there arguing with this man. I'm sweating profusely. My daughter comes out of her room and she was like, I thought it was my music at first, but I kept hearing this banging. At first I thought it was the bass to a song. But then I'm like, wait, who is that? So she came out of the room and she watched the guy, because at this point I was shaking so bad I had to sit down. And I'm drinking my water as fast as I can, sweltering, face almost purple from the heat. And she's like, what was that about? I said, nothing. He's a door-to-door salesperson. She goes, what's that? Because, see, she didn't live in a time when we had that normally. Now it's not normal. It's very few and in between. Well, at least around here. But my point with that is this. If I was older, if I had worsening health issues, or if I was my elderly neighbor, how terrible that would be for somebody to stand outside your home, bang on your door continuously for not just a moment, but minutes. Had to be 5 minutes this guy was out there screaming, banging on your door. I'm lucky the neighbors didn't call the police, because I think I would have. If you hear something like that out in the neighborhood, you might think something horrible is happening. You might think there's a burglar or something. I'm lucky the police didn't show up to say, is everything okay? Because that's how loud it was. Not just because of my sensory issues, but my daughter heard it too from the back bedroom that's nowhere near that area. And she said that was atrocious. So that's my point here. But in addition to that, it disturbed my peace. It disturbed my peace. I think a lot of people, including myself, wherever we live, a house, an apartment, our condo, our beach hut, wherever you live, that's like your mini sanctuary. You go home there. You go home to your pets, your family, your hobbies. That's your sanctuary. That's where you find peace. That's where you leave your worries behind. That's where you have time to think, time to reflect, time to be yourself, time to get out from the uncomfortableness of the world and just relax. And it disturbed my peace. And I thought, how horrible of that person to not even give that a thought, that he would be actually disturbing somebody who was ill or not well. And if my son's girlfriend had been here, she works from home. She's on the phone a lot of the times during the day. That would have really disturbed her. Imagine if you work from home and somebody's doing that at your door. I guess my advice here is, if you are in a job situation where you have to go door to door in 2026, which seems absolutely absurd to me, if you want to sell more of what you're selling, don't approach somebody's house like that. You don't know them. You don't know their situation. Don't do that. If they don't answer the door, if you ring the bell or if you knock and they don't answer, leave a pamphlet and move on. Don't scream. Don't bang. Don't stay there for 5 minutes. If they haven't come to the door, they're not going to. Just be considerate of other people. That's all I have to say today. Thanks for watching. Take care.